Hey guys, welcome back to Fundamentals of Design, a TUTS Plus premium course. I'm Kim Boltzma, and today we're going to talk about contrast.
In the last lesson, we covered a few of the basic principles of design. Today, we're going to dive into the first of several design categories, contrast. First, we will define the concept of contrast. Then, we will view contrast in action and ways to create contrast in any design. And we'll experiment with contrast in our own designs as well. We'll end with an assignment to get you thinking about contrast as we head into the next lesson. First of all, we need to define contrast. Contrast in graphic design is when one item is different than another item. Items alone don't mean much, which is why they require something else to give them value. Good designers will often make contrast occur between items that are similar, not just those that are blatantly different. For example, it's relatively easy to see the contrast between text and graphics. We often think of text as black letters over a white background or vice versa, whereas graphics are mixed with depth and color and texture and life. The good designer, however, will take similar items and make them contrast each other. Okay, so let's talk about contrast in action. There are 6 different ways to create contrast. One of them is through shape. You can take the same object, let's say a coffee cup, and you can change its shape, but still have the same meaning, delicious morning pick-me-up. Another means of creating contrast is through color. Again, we can have the same object, our coffee cup, but by changing its color, we create contrast amongst the same object. Apple did a great job with creating contrast through color in its original iPod ads and commercials. The vibrant, solid background colors, black silhouetted individual holding a bright white iPod with matching white earbuds, all of that brought emphasis on the iPod itself, not necessarily on the person who's holding it. The position of similar items on a page or in a design also creates contrast. Let's look at this Circus Space cover. The orientation of all the letters is similar. They're all facing the same direction. But the position of the R is contrasting and showing the idea of a circus act, particularly the trapeze, which you see, that's how it's attached to the R at the top of the design. Let's take a look at this 12 Days of Christmas graphic too. The designer used the same Christmas ornaments, but changed their color and position on the page. They're not all aligned, which aids in the contrast, but we'll talk about alignment during the next lesson. Differing or unexpected textures can create contrast too. For example, this Breathe poster, which uses tree branches to look like I think they're alveoli in the lungs. So upon first glance, it looks like a pair of lungs. But the irony in the design lies in that the tree gives you oxygen, thus the contrast in what's expected. Let's revisit that illustration we saw earlier. This is called Morning Paper, and it's kind of a crossover graphic. The author has chosen to use a physical photograph and then transition it into a sketch to make the bottle of Coca-Cola stand out more in the design. This mix of reality and drawing boosts emphasis on the Coke bottle. Obviously, you guys are seeing that I like coffee, but I really like this cafe mocha design. The background on the left side of the page is like a used coffee filter, that cream colored, inconsistent, and you can almost see like where you would set a coffee cup down on a piece of paper and it would leave a ring. All of that contrasts with the brown of the design, which reflects complete coffee. The different fonts on the right side of the page contrast with each other. Although the physical fonts are the same color, the actual fonts themselves are different. And all of that imitates the different brands or the different types of coffee that are available. Another example of ways to create contrast is through orientation. Let's first look at the Minneapolis design here. This is part of a series of posters that serve as textual representations of major U.S. cities. In the Minneapolis poster, letters are not in their usual left to right, top to bottom orientation, which is what you see as we flip through these different ones here. In this James Brown poster, the similar items are all the words in the same font family. The contrast is not only in the color, but also in the orientation of those words. The song lyrics and titles are all slanted in the same direction, as if coming out of James Brown's mouth. The words that make his head, however, contrast in that they are in different directions, orientations, on his face to give the face realism. Finally, varying sizes of similar objects provide contrast as well. The picture of a parent and child's feet show just how small and dependent babies are. No faces, no bodies, or anything else are necessary to get that point across. Text can also create contrast using size. In the Caviar and Vodka article, contrast occurs in the size of the words in comparison to the text, and then the entire design contrasts with the giant ampersand in the middle. All right, so here are a couple things that you should ponder. First of all, dominance. What should the audience be led to first in a design? The topic or subject should hold dominance to gain attention. Here's where you should think of the rule of two-thirds, or the rule of thirds. If your dominant item is not two-thirds larger than the next largest item in the design, your audience might not understand what to look for at first, and therefore they're going to lose interest in the idea. Look at this Beijing Coke article. The red Coke bottle is two-thirds larger than the pull quote at the left side of the page, which in turn is much larger than the text in the article on the right side of the page. So you've got that rule of two-thirds going on here where, again, the Coke bottle, dominant, pull quote on the left, second, and then smaller text on the right. Second thing we should ponder is emphasis. What other items should hold value in a design? Using contrast to emphasize particular items in a design creates the impression of value for an audience. Dates and times of events or special pricing on products may need emphasizing in order to attract a quick viewer's attention to detail. But be forewarned, you must use really sound judgment when choosing what to emphasize. Not everything can be emphasized, so grouping similar concepts together for emphasis will be most beneficial in your design. We'll discuss the concept of proximity a few lessons down the road here. All right, so let's get ready for your assignment. First of all, I want you to look for one example of each of those 6 types of contrast we discussed today. For example, find an example of orientation and find a different example of position. Then be able to explain the difference and why each is an example. So why is X contrasting in its orientation? Then be able to explain why dominance and emphasis play a role in each of the 6 types of contrast. For example, how is dominance playing a role in the James Brown poster? Although the words are important, it's what they are creating that is the crux of the poster's meaning, that James Brown has a lot to give in a concert. All right, next time I will be back with you to talk about the next concept of graphic design, which is repetition. Again, this is Kim Boltzma, and we'll see you next time.